All right, we're going to talk about file structures and workflow in this video. And it's really important to have a system in your mind for how you store files on your computer and how they work together. This prevents you from losing things, it helps you work faster, it helps you work better. And also, when you go and get a job at a design agency, something like that, they're going to have a system, and understanding these concepts will help you learn their system faster. So, I'm going to show you how I do it. It's not how you have to do it, but it's a way that works really well for me, and I recommend that you try it out. So, the first thing that I recommend is that you install Dropbox. Dropbox is just software that backs up files to the cloud so that if your computer ever crashes, if something goes wrong, you have those files somewhere else and you haven't lost all of your hard work. So Dropbox, once you've installed it, it is going to look just like a folder on your computer. And I put anything that's important to me in that folder. So I put all my personal stuff. This is where like my tax forms are. And I also put any projects that I'm currently working on. So Dropbox is free up to a certain amount of storage. So you kind of have to manage what you put there. But it is free, so that's nice. Okay, so if I was a student, I would absolutely have a folder called School in Dropbox, and I would have folders for each semester and for each class. Now, in a class like a design class where we're working on projects and those projects probably involve multiple files, I recommend a folder for each project. And then in each folder where I'm working on a design project, this is what I do. So I create a folder called Assets, and that's all of the pieces that I'm going to use in my designs. So that's any logos that I'm using, it's any images that I'm using. If it's a video project, there's probably video files there. It's all the pieces that I'm going to recombine, okay? Then I have a folder called Output. That's where my final stuff is going to come. So if I'm making social media graphics, they're going to go there. If I'm making a video, the final version is going to go there. That's the finished stuff. And then in my project folder, I'm going to have my AI files, my Illustrator files, my Photoshop files, my After Effects files, any of that kind of stuff. Okay. So to kind of demonstrate how this would work, if I was, say, interested in using I don't know, let's just say this stock image from Adobe Stock. I'm going to hit license. I am going to give it a second to download. And then the key is I'm always going to immediately move it out of my downloads folder. Okay, I never want anything living in my downloads folder. I don't want to ever be working out of my downloads folder. So here's that image that I just downloaded, and I'm going to just immediately move it into my assets folder. Okay, and that's because my Illustrator files, my other files need to know where these things are, and I need to make sure that I don't delete them. So let's take a look at how that looks. So if I'm in Illustrator, and I'm just going to go ahead and undo what I just did. Okay, I'm in Illustrator, I'm working on some social media graphics, some web graphics, something like this. Something that I will probably want to do is put some of my assets into here. So I'm going to go ahead and place this image here and say, okay, this is kind of a weird graphic that I'm making, and maybe it's going to go on social and on the web. Okay, so now when I export from here, okay, Illustrator has some really nice options that are going to help us manage all the different files we're going to make. So let's say that this is going to be for Instagram, so 1080 by 1080, and it's also going to be a web image at like 600 by 600 pixels. So I'm going to come export for screens, and you'll see a couple things. One, my artboard has a name, and that's going to be used for file names. Okay, so every time I export, it's going to have the same file name. I'm going to make sure that I'm exporting to my output folder. And then I'm going to choose create subfolders by scale, because Illustrator has different options for how it can export things. And by default, this is what you're going to see. So it's going to export one file at whatever 1x is. So the image of this artboard, it's going to export it as a ping. I can also, though, say that I want to export at a certain width. So I'm going to say I want to export at 1080 pixels wide, and also at 600 pixels wide. So now what it does when I hit export artboard is if I look at my output folder, I have a folder for all of my 600 wide images, and I have a folder for all of my 1080 wide images. So when I'm looking for Instagram, I can pull from here. When I'm looking for the web, I can pull from here. And this is going to overwrite every time I make a change. So if I decide that I want to move that text up a little bit, when I come to File, Export for Screens, everything is going to stay the same. I'm going to export. I'm going to replace those files, and I still have my nice output right here. Similarly, if I jump into Photoshop, this is the file for my assets folder. And let's say I decide I want to try it in black and white, or I want it to be black and white. I'm going to take that saturation down. I'm going to save that file. And I'm going to come back into Illustrator, update it. And now when I export, everything is going to stay the same. I'm going to export and replace those artboards. Okay. If I'm working on multiple assets, okay, multiple things that I'm going to spit out, let's say I have 2 artboards, and this one I'm going to call square underscore party 2, let's say, and just make a change. Now when I export my artboards, I'm going to check both of them. They're both going in there. And every time I export, I am now getting all of my files in exactly the format that I want them. So that is my folder structure for when I'm working on design projects. Again, it is everything in Dropbox so that I know that it's always safe. It's course folders. If I'm working on school projects, it's a folder for every project. And then if it's a design project, I'm going to have an assets folder, an output folder, and my files that I'm working on, like my Illustrator files here. So I hope that is helpful. You will find different ways to do it. There are certainly fancier ways to do it. This is just what works for me and keeps my stuff neat.